at 18 minutes past 7. Just one more time, that's youtube.com/Irish election. We want to have a look because one feature of the debate last night was the online and social media element of it, and lots of our listeners were chatting to me on the Twitter page about what they thought. Now, Stephen O'Leary from O'Leary Analytics is teamed up with News Talk throughout this election campaign to monitor the social side of things, and Stephen was busy at work last night with the debate. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning, Chris.
Good to see you again. Tell me first of all, how big and how far and wide did it go?
Again, it was another big night in terms of political chat on Twitter in Ireland and internationally again. We saw over 2,600 tweets published between 6 p.m. and midnight last night, and that was a sample size. Overall sentiment surrounding the debate was much more positive than negative, and I think again this comes back to the quality of debate that Ivan was speaking about earlier on. There is an awful lot of appreciation, I think, about just how good the interaction was, and that was reflected online. You know, staying completely away from who won or lost. Overall, people were happy. They liked the debate from both sides. In terms of the tweets published, it wasn't just in Ireland. We saw people talking about this. The fact that it was broadcast online meant people could watch this around the world. So we saw comments from places like the US, the UK, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands. So people, you know, abroad who have an interest in Irish politics, both Irish and international, were definitely tuning in. Interestingly, 3 of the top 10 tweeters during this were news organisations.
Yep.
So we had the Journal Live, who did a particularly good job. The Journal.ie, they were sending out audio boo content from the debate itself, and regularly updating people who maybe didn't have access to a television. So again, people I think were using Twitter when they didn't necessarily weren't able to get in front of a screen.
This was a huge success for TV3 as well, because the way Twitter works is you put a hashtag on thing, which basically puts it in a category. You say this is, their hashtag last night was TV3LD, TV3's leader debate. So you basically file that at the end of a tweet to categorise it, and it was one of the top trending things in the world last night.
It was. In fact, there was 2 particular tags that were used. There was both TV3LD as well as TV3 News, and the fact that TV3 News appeared on screen as the debate was starting, people who were watching and maybe didn't know an awful lot about Twitter got an idea and were maybe able to watch for the first time what was happening on Twitter, if not participate in the conversation. The only difficulty we have with this is the fact that when something becomes a trending topic, and this was one of the top 5 in the world last night, spammers can pick up on this and start using the tag in an inappropriate way. And I know when we got the initial results back last night, there was unfortunately an awful lot of manual filtering that had to be done early this morning, taking out stuff that it was irrelevant, where people were simply using the tag to try and get their mentions into a stream that was unpolitically related.
Now on Monday, the way I said to you that for me the jury was out on the substance of the online stuff, and I am a fan of online, and I love the dialogue and the fact that you can tell people first that Eamon O'Keefe is asleep at the Fianna Fáil manifesto and things like that. But I was asking you about the substantive nature of the online, what it has to contribute, say a 140 character tweet to the overall election campaign. And last night I thought was very, very strong. Like the World Cup final, you could see what other people thought, you could see what people whose opinion you respect, what they thought about what was happening. So who was saying what last night online?
Well, I think what was interesting was that as well as all of the, I suppose, regular conversations that were taking place normally, there were some people with an awful lot of influence. And one of the things we do is measure the influence of those who are talking and the potential audience. So Frank Fitzgibbon, for example, the editor of the Sunday Times, who has 5,500 followers, over 5,500 followers on Twitter, said, in terms of the main issues, Enda now has precisely what Gilmore and Martin are going to say when he eventually joins the fray. So picking up on the fact that even though Enda wasn't there, that for the next debate he may now have a good idea of what the leaders are actually going to be talking about. On a campaign issue, I suppose, or on an actual manifesto issue, Barnardo's Ireland, the charity, sent out a message saying 1 in 3 kids in disadvantaged communities leave primary school without being able to read and write. Invest in early intervention. So again, it's good to be able to see, people actually using this in a very constructive way, not just heckling either of the leaders. One of the more interesting tweets that I read last night, though, was the fact that TV3's approval gauge has been a useful demonstration of how committed party faithful are to influencing online polls. And that came from Alan Kavanagh. And we saw that a number of times last night. There was obviously an awful lot of political sentiment. And because there are so many politically minded people now on Twitter and in various different social networks, things like political polls that are happening in real time while an actual debate is taking place can be sometimes skewed, but you do get a very good idea of who is winning and who's losing. OK, Stephen O'Leary from O'Leary Analytics for that analysis. Thank you very much. And Stephen's also sent us in a word cloud of the words that we used the most during the whole lot of yesterday's proceedings. It's an online thing, it's a visual thing to have a look, but very interesting. Newstalk.ie/